April the 25th, 1915, men of the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps landed at Gallipoli. It was on that day the traditions of our fighting forces were born. These stories of their sons and daughters at war we proudly dedicate to the memory of Anzac.
Well, g'day everyone, it's Warren from NQ Explorers. Anzac Day 2022. It looks like COVID's on the run, and there's a very real chance commemorative services and the Anzac Day marches will be back to normal this year, which is great news. I'll just say from the outset, I didn't monetize this video. I wouldn't attempt to make any money out of Anzac Day. If you see any ads on here, that's Google trying to make money out of me, not me making money out of you. Anyway, what I was going to do was like a best of military relic hunting finds video, but if you've been watching our channel for any length of time, well, you would have seen plenty of our military videos. And I'll have a military relic hunting playlist that you can actually watch the whole lot of them, or most of them anyway. So I'll send you to that rather than actually put you through any digs today. I just wanted to talk about Anzac Day today and what it means to me personally and Colleen and our family. We have quite a lot of military service in the family. Personally, I did 15 years in the Royal Australian Air Force. Colleen herself did 10. My sister did 6 years in the Navy, and my son-in-law in the RAF. We go back a generation. Colleen's father was very young at the beginning of World War II, and he put his age up. You had to be 21 to join. He volunteered, I think he was 18, because he's such a big, strong bloke. No one questioned how old he was, and they needed men. And he became a Bren gunner in the 51st Battalion in the AIF. He saw heavy combat in New Guinea, Merauke, and on Bougainville. He was, his unit and himself were involved in the Portland Plantation disaster of 1945. I have mentioned this on previous videos, and I will make I want to make a tribute video to that Portland Plantation disaster and get that bit of history out there. It's not very well known. There are some small books on it, and it is information on it is available, but I'd love to do a video, and I'm just thinking about how to do that and how to best to serve the memory of the men that were killed in that disaster at the end of the war in what was really believed by just about every man and his dog to be an unnecessary operation, mid-1945. Anyway, my grandfather on my mother's side was a little bit older than Colleen's father, and he'd had 2 children by the time World War II came around. He'd already done CMF service or militia service in the artillery in Newcastle in his 20s. Now he's in his mid-30s when he was conscripted again into the militia, and then he transferred to the OEF, went to New Guinea, served in Port Moresby and Milne Bay. And I mean, that generation didn't talk about the war very much, but the anecdotal, the larrikin stories are what I enjoyed, and I got a few of those I could tell about what happened between that bunch of men, which faced fear one day and then hijinks the next. That's just the way it was with the Aussies. I mean, the black humour was what kept most of them going, I suppose, and it's like an Australian trait to this day. If we go back even further, World War I, the Great War, on my mother's side, her grandfather served in the Western Front in France, and my great uncle, who I never met because he died in the early 60s, just after I was born. I never met him. He was a Gallipoli veteran. He served with the 1st AIF, 1st Battalion, New South Wales. He went ashore at 04:45 on the 25th of April 1915 at Anzac Cove, one of the first Anzacs to land. And his story is an interesting one, and the beauty of the Australian archive, because it's over 100 years now, you can access Army records in the Army archives online. I've got some great historical records from my family tree of letters my great-grandmother wrote to the army thanking them for their care of him when he was injured and all that sort of thing. Wonderful stuff in this lovely flowing script. But anyway, so what happened to my uncle, great-uncle, landed at 04:45, 25th of April. Of course, if you know anything about the history of Gallipoli, no one went very far inland. The furthest inland was a Kiwi soldier. He made it quite a fair way inland, but they basically withdrew to the bluffs, the beach, which was under fire most of the time, and just the bluffs, and they hung on there for all that time before the ordered withdrawal. Anyway, so my great-uncle goes ashore there. Some months into the campaign, he receives a gunshot wound, which was quite serious. He was evacuated back to Cairo to repatriation hospital, recovered from the gunshot wound, went back to Gallipoli for the second time, back to his unit, was shot a second time, a second gunshot wound. It's just in the records as GSW. Once again sent to a repatriation hospital in Cairo. This time he recovers again, 2 gunshot wounds, comes back to the beach, and some days after he returned, in the army record, he was charged with malingering on the beach. He'd obviously decided, well, I've been shot twice, I've done enough, I'm not going back up there. He was docked a few days' pay and returned to his unit and served the Gallipoli campaign to the end. Because when they withdrew in 1916, back to Egypt, and then the unit he was in deployed to the Western Front, and he ended up in the trenches in the Western Front. And in quite a flip to the story about the malingering on the beach, having had enough, he served also that period right up to the end, towards the middle of 1918, and at Bully Court he was injured again, and this time it was pretty serious. He received a shrapnel wound to the lung. And unlike the last time, he didn't report to medical. He stayed on the front, in the lines, in the trenches for 3 more days, until he was noticed in the army records coughing up blood, and he was sent to the casualty clearing station, where they discovered that he had a shrapnel fragment in one of his lungs. He would have been sent to a large army hospital in France, and they removed the shrapnel and most of one of his lungs. So now he had, obviously he wasn't physically fit for the army service anymore, and this is right towards the end of the war anyway, because it ended in November. This was mid-18. The army said, righto mate, you've done enough, you can go home. So they sent him home to Australia, where he lived till 1964, obviously with breathing difficulties because he'd only had one lung because of his injury in France. It's funny how he took 3 major wounds in the war. The second one he decided he didn't want to fight anymore, I guess, for a few days, and then the third one, well, he didn't even report to medical for 3 days with a serious, he obviously just did a bit of first aid and they patched it up, but he had a bit of croup, steel in his lung. So that's our family's connection to the Anzacs, and of course he had brothers that also served. I don't know the details of those, but I'm still researching that. So personally to me, it's I've always been a student of military history. I've loved Australian military history. It's the reason I joined the Air Force. Same with Colleen, and our association with our relatives from that great generation that fought the Second World War. So Anzac Day is a very special day to us here in Australia and of course New Zealand. The marches are always well attended, and commemorative services and the dawn services are always very moving. So I urge you this year, if you can, get along to a service, go to a dawn service, go and watch the marches, watch those veterans from World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Somalia, of course Iraq and Afghanistan now. We've got much younger veterans these days. Give them your support, give them your thanks, go to an Anzac Day service, lest we forget.